Welcome back to the Josh Kane Presidential Fireside Chat. We're still live here at the main event. Hopefully the future of my retirement. Episode number 203. The late, great John D. Rockefeller. Again, we are not going to get anywhere near enough. I don't have enough time to go into a lot of the detail here for Rockefeller. Maybe one of the most fascinating guys in American history. Again, another guy that never served in the military, never served, any type of public office, but goes on to become the richest person in human history. So, fascinating life. Hopefully, we'll touch on some of the details. A great conspiracy theory from about 110 years ago that turns out to be word for word from a conspiracy today. So, I'm hoping whoever needs to hear this really takes it in, takes a long look in the mirror. And here's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? All right. So, Rockefeller, his dad's an interesting guy. William Rockefeller has a double life. He actually goes by Dr. William Livingston, has a secret family in Canada. He's a snake oil salesman, just travels the countryside, goes by Doc Rockefeller. Again, he's all over the country, ripping people off. Always, in the end, comes begging for money from his son. But he's a terrible guy. There's a lot of terrible people on this show. So, Rockefeller, the dad kind of abandons the family. So he becomes like a bookkeeper. 16, he's out there already hustling. At that point, oil is discovered in western Pennsylvania. And everybody's traveling to western Pennsylvania to make money, but the real money would be in refining the oil. So he starts buying up all the refineries in Cleveland and just goes from there. A lot of the stuff he did today would be considered illegal, but he built a massive corporation. He starts Standard Oil in 1870 with his brother William Jr. And again, a lot of the tactics that they use, they at one point control basically 100% of the kerosene market, which was again used for lighting homes at the time. Gasoline hadn't even, that was a byproduct of kerosene. They were just dumping it in the rivers and into the ground. So it was before the internal combustion engine was invented, which, as kerosene was losing favor to electricity when Edison and Tesla, get the light bulbs and electricity, he finds another use for gasoline, the byproduct of kerosene. So he's building this massive amount of wealth. He controls, again, basically the world supply of kerosene, and he doesn't, he's making tons and tons and tons of money, and he sort of invests in other things, but like not well. He doesn't track it. At one point, he owns a mine in Minnesota. And kind of by accident, it becomes this huge iron ore, and it becomes such a big business that at one point he has the biggest fleet of ships on the Great Lakes. So everything he does is like on this massive scale. Sort of everything he touches turns to gold. But again, we talk a lot about he's kind of a ruthless guy, and a lot of the stuff he does, creating the monopolies and what have you, are essentially illegal today. And it's actually thanks to Ida Tarbell. We actually talked a little bit about her in season 1, episode 27, I think. William Howard Taft. She's big at this moment. She does a big expose on Standard Oil and its kind of slimy practices. And it actually eventually leads to the breakup of Standard Oil. The problem is he gets a similar percentage of ownership in all the spin-offs. So Mobil, Exxon, Marathon, Chevron, and all those companies become the biggest company. So he is literally just printing money. He can't, when you think about the fortune that he becomes the richest person in human history. So, he can't spend the money fast enough. So we talked a little bit about it in the, again, season 1, the Grover Cleveland episodes. You know, the country goes almost bankrupt in 1895, and J.P. Morgan kind of comes in and saves the day, puts a deal together. But it's really Rockefeller's money that guarantees the United States stays solvent. So I know a lot of people, I always hear people say they want to get the U.S. government down to the point where small enough where you could drown in a bathtub. Do we really want that? Do we want a guy like Rockefeller, the Vanderbilts, J.P. Morgan being the most powerful people? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. Rockefeller's, he's not a bad guy. He's not a great guy either. So, you know, he's like just ruthless, putting people out of business, putting, you know, families out of business, like just not paying people. But then he goes on to become like this great philanthropist. So he's a real hard guy to nail down. You know, he gets into some legal troubles, and you know, he's constantly being subpoenaed and taken to court. But like, he would go on the run. So he'd be hiding out on these huge estates, and he would sneak away in the middle of the night when the sheriffs came to arrest him. It's almost too hard to believe his life story. He suffers from, I guess, alopecia. So he's got, you know, he loses all his hair. He kind of looks a little bit like a walking skeleton. He wears ill-fitting wigs. He's just an odd-looking guy. He behaves like an odd guy. Again, he's always on the run. Like, he's not really enjoying this. Well, I guess he is enjoying it. He's living on these vast estates. But I don't know. He gets all this money, and at that point, there's really no mechanism for giving it away. Just nothing existed. So a lot of it he invents, or you know, his people invent to just try and donate this money. His son, John D. Rockefeller Jr., probably deserves his own episode in a future season. He helps really donate a lot of that money that was generated from Rockefeller, the Standard Oil, and what have you. So he starts things like the University of Chicago. He actually donates like $80 million over his lifetime to fund the University of Chicago. He also creates the Rockefeller University, which is like a research hospital. He invests a ton of money into like health, science, that sort of thing. And that actually leads to, this conspiracy theory I've been sitting on for like 9 months. Rockefeller was the first book I read when I finished The Presidents. And I had never heard this. I've only told this to a few people just to see if they had ever heard of it. No one's heard of it, so I'm going to assume none of you have heard it. Hopefully I'm able to articulate it the way I want. Because this like just it should hit you right over the head. Like, again, I can't say this enough. Yesterday's conspiracy theories are just today's conspiracy theories. They're just regurgitated over and over and over. History just keeps repeating itself. I can't encourage you enough to read more. I mean, the more you read, the more you just feel like you're reading current events a lot of times. So, in the South, the South had a terrible reputation for the people being like mentally slow, lazy. In some cases, that is persists today, that reputation. But it turns out, and they were actually physically smaller in some cases than their counterparts in the North. They discovered that it was hookworm. The South was totally infested with hookworm. People are poor, running around without shoes on. It's obviously warmer weather, so it weren't like they were walking in the snow. And it's estimated that 40% of the people in the South had hookworm. You're talking about tens of millions of people in the South had hookworm. Well, thanks to Rockefeller's money, and he spent millions and millions of dollars on, again, health, research, science, all kinds of... They come up with a vaccine. and it instantly cured hookworm. Did people take it? Of course they didn't. They thought Rockefeller was trying to sell people shoes. I'm not even kidding. The big conspiracy is the people in the South thought Rockefeller was trying to sell shoes. This guy is the richest person in human history, and they thought he was trying to sell shoes. So they wouldn't take the medicine, even though it instantly cured them. So what did the Southern governors do? They mandated people to take the vaccine and wear shoes. Oh my God. I wish I was kidding. I wish this was a joke, but I'm not. Yep. It's just like today where people think Bill Gates is injecting a tracking device. I don't even know. It's so crazy. It's the exact same thing. People think Bill Gates is the richest person in the world. What does he care about? He already controls 95% of the computers in the world. What does he care about putting a... As you're tweeting this from your phones that are tracking your every movement and every purchase and every dark secret that you have. I mean, it's ridiculous. I hope that you take that in. Whoever needs to hear that, it's the exact same conspiracy theory from 110 years ago. The governors back then were so worried about their reputations on the world stage. They wanted immigrants, they wanted people to come to their states. So they were like embarrassed if stuff like this happened. So they mandated people take the medicine, wear shoes. I mean, geez Louise. So I don't know. Again, hopefully that you hear that message, whoever needs to hear it. I'm telling you, I recently saw that on social media, fake stories are shared at 6 times the rate of real stories. Stop reading the internet. Just read the history books. You'll learn more about current events. Everything's based in our history. Those who control the history control the future. So please stop. Anyway, I've got a great book recommendation. This is a terrific book. Titan, The Life and Times of John Rockefeller by Ron Chernow, same guy that wrote the Washington and Hamilton biographies. This may actually be better than those books. This is terrific. Again, Rockefeller's life is so crazy. I can't recommend this book enough. Again, all of us are still benefiting from Rockefeller money, even though maybe he's not that great of a guy. It seems like maybe the son was a pretty good guy, John Rockefeller Jr. Is it his grandson, Nelson, that becomes the vice president? A couple of the grandkids, great-grandkids became governors, senators, etc. So, there's still a lot of Rockefellers in our life, I guess. A lot better than what the Vanderbilts did. The Vanderbilts just blew through the money. The Rockefellers, gave back, I guess. So that's, the right thing. So travel recommendations, I'm going to go with, because we're up in Maine, we'll go with Acadia National Park. Just beautiful up there. Bar Harbor, the town, nice little coastal Maine, I'd say beach town. I guess it's got a beach up that way. Just gorgeous. The carriage roads all through the park. We brought our bikes. We rode our bikes all through the park. Went to the top of Cadillac Mountain, which I guess is the first place that gets sun on New Year's Day each year. So it's the first place in America that gets sun. Get the popovers at Jordan Pond. The delicious popovers. Acadia, just terrific. But again, Rockefeller, you got to read the book. History keeps repeating itself. I'm Josh Kane from Agunquit, Maine. Till next time, bye for now.